Hey, welcome to the podcast. This is The Surge Effect, and I'm your host, Mike Surge. This podcast will be talking about anything and everything, life in general to current events and past events, and all things about this beautiful and wonderful world that we live in. And this podcast, well, it'll probably have an effect on you.
All right, and welcome to another episode of The Surge Effect. In this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on down in the States with the Bidens. That's right, the Bidens. There seems a lot to be going on with them. But before we get going, I'm just going to mention a couple of our sponsors. Our first sponsor for today is Love My Legs, OwenSound Grey Bruce. Love My Legs allows you to strut with confidence, offering 3 styles of waistbands for comfort and wearability and the only lifetime guarantee in the industry. For more information, follow them on Facebook at Love My Legs, OwenSound Grey Bruce. Just click on the link below this video and you will go directly to their webpage and you'll see everything they have to offer. Our next sponsor is He-Shirts, She-Shirts. He-Shirts, She-Shirts is more than just a t-shirt company. Click on their description below in this link and head on over their webpage and check out to see what they have to offer at their site. Okay, so let's get right into it. I'm sure some of these videos you guys have or have not seen. First one I'm going to show you is a guy by the name of Tony Bobulinski. Now, Tony Bobulinski was a veteran, Marine. His whole family were veterans, and Tony Bobulinski released this press release, basically a bunch of reporters just before the election, just before the Trump and Biden election. So anyway, he came forward and said all this, and this literally was not covered on MSNBC, NBC, CNN. 0 minutes were covered by this gentleman by the name of Tony Bobulinski. So let's listen to what Tony has to say.
Talking to the media right now.
Armed forces. Since leaving the Navy, I've been involved in various successful businesses, both in this country and abroad. I'm making this statement to set the record straight about the involvement of the Biden family, Vice President Biden, his brother Jim Biden, and his son Hunter Biden, in dealings with the Chinese. I have heard Joe Biden say that he's never discussed business with Hunter. That is false. I have firsthand knowledge about this because I directly dealt with the Biden family, including Joe Biden. I have also heard that Vice President Biden said on Tuesday that Senator Ron Johnson, the chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, should be ashamed for suggesting that Biden family sought to profit from their name. Well, here are the facts I know.
So just before Tony Bobulinski starts talking about the facts, keep in mind, replace Biden's name with Trump. If this was Trump, would this be equal justice? The answer is rhetorical. So is the question. So let's carry on.
And everything I'm saying is corroborated by emails, WhatsApp chats, agreements, documents, and other evidence. And the American people can judge for themselves. I brought, I guess, for record, 3 phones that spanned the years 2015 through 2018. These phones have never been held by anybody else besides myself. I was told this past Sunday by somebody who was also involved in this matter that if I went public this information, it would bury all of us, man. The Bidens included. I have no wish to bury anyone. I've never been political. The few contributions I have made have been to Democrats. But what I am is a patriot and a veteran. To protect my family name and my business reputation, I need to ensure that the true facts are out there. In late 2015, I was approached by James Gillier, whom I had known for many years, about joining him.
So this was covered by Tucker Carlson several years ago, and like I said, nobody covered it. Nobody but Tucker, and of course Fox News, but nobody else did.
In a deal which he said would involve the Chinese state-owned enterprise CEFC China energy, and what he called one of the most prominent families in the United States. I was informed first by Gilliar, and then by Hunter Biden, and by Rob Walker, who was working with the Bidens, that the Bidens wanted to form a new entity with CFC, which was to invest in infrastructure, real estate, and technology in the U.S. and around the world, and the entity would initially be capitalized with $10 million and then grow to billions of dollars of investment capital. After months of discussion, I agreed at Gilliar and Hunter Biden's request to become CEO of the entity to be called Sinohawk. Sino representing the Chinese side, Hawk representing Hunter Biden's brother Bo's favorite animal. And between February and May 2017, we exchanged numerous emails, documents, and WhatsApp messages concerning Sinohawk and its potential business. On May 2nd, 2017, the night before Joe Biden was to appear at the Milken Conference, I was introduced to Joe Biden by Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. At my approximately hour-long meeting with Joe that night, we discussed the Biden's history, the Biden's family business plans with the Chinese, with which he was plainly familiar, at least at a high level. After that meeting, I had numerous communications with Hunter, Walker, Gilliar, and Jim Biden regarding the allocation of the equity ownership of Sinohawk. On May 13, 2017, I received an email concerning allocation of equity, which says 10% held by H for the big guy. In that email, there's no question that H stands for Hunter, big guy for his father, Joe Biden. And
So, how can this guy make this stuff up? How can he make all this stuff up? Towards the end, and why would he, right? Why would he? Towards the end, he's saying about all these phones that he has, he's going to be going and taking them to the FBI, I believe, at the end of this clip.
Affiliated with Hunter. Tomorrow, I will be meeting with the Senate committee members concerning this matter, and I will be providing to the FBI the devices which contain the evidence corroborating what I have said. So I will not be taking any questions at this time.
So he basically said he is not taking any questions at this time, and he's going to be taking all the evidence that he has to the FBI. So with that being said, my next clip is going to be basically 5 minutes of the Biden family kind of incriminating themselves, starting with Hunter and kind of going with Joe all the way through. If you haven't seen any of these clips, you're about to see some dandy. So have a listen and have a watch.
Calls from my father to tell me that the New York Times is calling.
Hey, pal, it's Dad. It's 8:15 on Wednesday night. If you get a chance, give me a call. Nothing urgent. Just want to talk to you. I thought the article, at least the thing online, it's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times, was good. I think it's clear. And anyway, if you get a chance, give me a call. I love you.
But my old partner, Eric, who literally has done me harm for I don't know how long, is the one taking the calls because my father will not stop sending the calls to Eric.
This is a detail of most, if not all, of the 27 meetings that Eric
Look at all that 27 meetings Eric Schwerin had at the White House. 27.
2016. 8 of those meetings were in the year 2016 alone. There you see one of them, 2/29/2016. Steve Ricchetti, who is the president's then chief of staff, is now his counsel.
Hunter's business partner Eric Schwerin also attended 21 out of the 30 of those listed meetings with the then VP.
I have another New York Times reporter calling about my representation of the, literally, Dr. Patrick Koh, the spy chief of China, who started the company that my partner, who was worth $323 billion, founded, and is now missing. The richest man in the world is missing, who was my partner. He was missing since I last saw him in his $58 million apartment.
Guy just disappeared.
Signed a $4 billion deal to build the largest LNG port in the world.
In one instance, the guy that helped Hunter secure $20 million deal At the same time he was helping Hunter Biden, he was business partners with the Vice Minister of State Security in China. That's their spy apparatus. And his responsibilities at the spy agent was recruiting foreign nationals to spy for China. So this is not just corruption. This is very serious national security stuff we're talking about.
And I am receiving calls from the Southern District of New York, from the U.S. Attorney himself. My best friend in business, Devin, has named me as a witness without telling me in a criminal case, and my father without telling me.
I just want to pause and just let that sink in a little bit. Devin Archer is now a convicted felon. He got a meeting in the White House with the Vice President of the United States. That's kind of a big deal.
And I'd also like to point out that Southern District, he mentions that they were listed as witnesses. Hunter and Joe Biden listed as witnesses from Devin Archer in a Southern District of New York court case. That's the exact same one I just referenced. If I could read this was from the U.S. Attorney. He said, quote, "These defendants orchestrated a highly complex scheme to defraud a Native American community and multiple pension funds, all to corruptly bankroll their own personal and business interests." That says it all right there, and it pretty much shows everything that they were involved with. That seems to be the MO for all of this.
Keep in mind, like I said at the start of this podcast, if this was Trump, he'd be toast. Done. I mean, he made a phone call to the president of the Ukraine, and that Trump even released that phone call, and they picked that apart, and they impeached him for it. A phone call. One phone call. You add up all these pieces, and they haven't even touched Biden. Something smells rotten in Denmark.
6 days after Devin Archer joined the board of Burisma, a day after Vice President Biden visited Ukraine, which was 5 days after he met with Devin Archer in the White House, British officials seized $23 million from the corrupt owner of Burisma.
Oh, is that all? Just $23 million?
2014, 3 weeks later, Hunter Biden joined the board of Burisma. What a coincidence.
A Senate investigation discovered Burisma sent 2 wires worth more than $112,000 to Rosemont Senecare Bahia, a shell entity run by Hunter Biden's business associate, Devin Archer.
We also now know that Hunter was involved with Elena Baturina, the corrupt and now sanctioned wife of the former mayor of Moscow, during the exact same period of time. On February 14th, 2014, Baturina wired $3.5 million to Rosemont Seneca Thornton.
Only $3.5 million.
Co-founded by Hunter Biden. On April 13th, 2014, 9 days before Devin Archer joined the board of Burisma, Hunter Biden and Devin Archer discussed a potential deal involving Baturina. Archer wrote to Baturina, quote, "Confirmed green light to fund deposit," unquote. Archer continued, quote, "Just spent 2 hours on the phone with Kiev. I am confident at this point this is a good, if not life-changing deal if the Ukraine doesn't collapse in the meantime."
So that's Senator Ron Johnson, of course, going over his stuff at a hearing. But this is incredible stuff when you look at it. There's so much evidence piling up on the Bidens. It's crazy, but nothing's being done in the States. It's crazy. So here's another little quick video. This is of a question by a reporter at a press conference, and this is what she asks, and this is what the answer was.
Lastly, made some statements yesterday on the Senate floor saying that this foreign national on the FBI 1023 form apparently has 15 recorded conversations with Hunter Biden and claims to have 2 with the president. Is the White House aware of any recordings in which the president might be on tape speaking to a Burisma executive?
So the president spoke to this. I think he was shouted a question about this at the Thursday press conference, and I'm just going to quote him and say it's malarkey.
It's malarkey. Of course he would say it's malarkey, because he denies everything that transpires in his life. he's told the truth his whole life, hasn't he? All these years since he's been in power, like in politics for well over 50 years, well over 5 decades. It's like it's craziness. So anyway, here's another little clip here of them talking about these tapes, 15 tapes of 15 of Hunter and 2 of Biden. So there are other questions being asked.
Part is, Maria, that we have the FBI director, Christopher Wray, that refused to hand over an unclassified form, the 1023, to our oversight committee that Andy Biggs and I both sit on under Chairman Comer. The other shocking part is that not only did he force us to read this unclassified form in a skiff, he redacted not only names, which is actually more understandable, but he redacted the most important part of information on there is that there was 17 audio recordings, 15 of Hunter, 2 of Joe Biden himself, about Joe Biden taking a $5 million bribe. How dare Christopher Wray have the audacity to hide this information for his boss, Joe Biden? This is purely protecting crimes. He's hiding crimes the President of the United States committed when he was vice president, and that's where...
See how this web is just tangled so much. So, once again, they talk about 17 recordings, 15 from Hunter, 2 from Biden, 2 from Joe. And the other day at a senatorial hearing, here is Senator Ted Cruz. This is the assistant FBI director that he's asking these questions to. Because people go, oh, there can't be all these tapes, so I don't believe it. What's going on? Well, it's like a shell game. They're moving everything around. But when you watch these senatorial hearings and you hear these people speak, this guy here, is, like I said, is the assistant director of the FBI. Now, the director of the FBI was Wray. Wray decided not to hand over those recordings like you heard Margie Taylor Greene just mentioned earlier in that last video. They asked for them at their oversight committee, and he would not give them. So that in itself speaks volumes. Now, people talk about conspiracy theories. Well, if you have nothing to hide, hide nothing. Why is the FBI hiding information? So I'm going to let you watch this video here, if you haven't seen it already, of Ted Cruz asking the deputy director of the FBI about these recordings. Listen to this.
Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, every day when I'm home in Texas, I hear from Texans who are deeply dismayed about the growing politicization and weaponization of the Department of Justice and the FBI. If you are not, every one of you should be deeply concerned about the damage being done to the integrity of the institutions in which you operate. My office hears regularly from FBI agents and from assistant U.S. attorneys who are likewise concerned about the politicization and weaponization of the Department of Justice and the FBI, and this is profoundly damaging to the rule of law in our nation. Last month, a whistleblower brought to light the existence in the FBI of a report, an FD 1023, in which the informant alleges that President Biden and his family members engaged in a $5 million bribery scheme during his time as vice president. Deputy Director Abate, is it true that the FBI has a report making those allegations?
I'm not going to comment on that, Senator.
And why is that?
I'm just not going to comment on information we've received, investigations.
Do you owe an obligation to the American people to be candid about evidence of corruption by the President of the United States?
This is an area that I'm not going to get into with you, Senator.
Well, I understand you don't want to, and that's why people are mad at the FBI, because you're stonewalling and covering up serious allegations of evidence of corruption from the President. Yesterday, Senator Chuck Grassley stood on the Senate floor and alleged that there are 17 recordings of this informant from Burisma, Ukrainian natural gas company. 15 of them are recordings, voice recordings of him talking to Hunter Biden. 2 of them are voice recordings of him talking to Joe Biden. Deputy Director Abate, does the FBI have 17 voice recordings laying out evidence of a bribery scheme?
Senator, I would add also that we've worked with the House Oversight Committee.
Yeah, this is the Senate. We're the other side of the Capitol. This is the Senate. Do you have those 17 recordings?
I'm not going to comment on any investigative matters, Senator.
See, that's the problem. The FBI, and I've had this conversation with Chris Wray too, this is why you are damaging the institution.
Exactly.
The American people have a right to know whether there is serious, credible...
This is why you have conspiracy theories of people saying, oh, it can't be this or it can't be this or it's probably this, because they're hiding. What are they hiding? What's the FBI hiding?
Evidence that the President of the United States took a $5 million bribe. And by the way, if it's false, Chairman Durbin just rolled his eyes. If Chairman Durbin were interested in the rule of law, we would have a hearing on these allegations. But of course, the Democrats don't want a hearing on these allegations. And to be clear, if the allegations are false, you know who could disprove them? Joe Biden. He could call for this to be released publicly. But the FBI is stonewalling. Would you agree?
Two things, Senator. No one's
Sure.
stonewalling. The 1023
You just said you refused
was
to answer the
provided
question.
in response to a subpoena.
Okay,
to the
then why'd
House
you refuse
Oversight
to answer
Committee.
my
The-
question?
The pertinent information is there, and I reject your assertion that the
Why
FBI
did you
is
refuse to
politicized.
answer my question?
I just answered your question.
Okay, so yes, you have a 1023. Do you have the 17 recordings? Yes or no?
I'm not going to get further into that.
So you're stonewalling. You can't say I'm not refusing to answer your question, but I won't answer your question.
Exactly.
I'm going to answer within the parameters that we operate in.
That's the problem. The FBI has right now an unlimited hubris that you believe you are unaccountable. You don't believe you're accountable to the United States Congress, and you don't believe you're accountable to the American people.
They're like a rogue faction. They're just doing their own thing. They're not accountable to anyone, not even the senators, the United States senators. It's crazy.
And you are doing damage. The FBI is a great institution. When I go home to Texas, people ask me, should we abolish the FBI? Now, I tell them no, because you have heroes and patriots working for you that are catching child predators, that are catching terrorists. But you're sitting there happily erecting a wall to protect Joe Biden. Will you provide to this committee, not the House, the Senate Judiciary Committee, will you provide the FD 1023 and will you provide the 17 recordings so we can assess what is the evidence, the specific credible evidence that Joe Biden personally took a $5 million bribe from a foreign national?
Senator, we will work with this committee, you and other
that
members,
sounds
to
like a
provide
no.
The information within the parameters of the process.
Will you provide the FD 1023, yes or no?
I will take that back, and we will work with our...
So you're not answering that. Will you provide the 17 recordings?
We will take that back, and we'll work with you.
So you're not answering that either. Did you investigate in any way, shape, or form these allegations?
Senator, once again, I'm not going to comment.
So you're not going to say whether you did your job?
We do our job to the very best of our ability.
Well, not here. You're not answering a single question to the American people. And you may think this is esoteric. I promise you, millions of Americans are concerned. You know who isn't concerned? Not a single Senate Democrat. We're going to go through this whole hearing. Not one Democrat will ask a question about this. You know who else isn't concerned? The corporate media, who is joining with the Democrats in covering up this evidence. If Joe Biden is innocent, the evidence should be made public and demonstrate that he's innocent. But if he is not, is it true this informant who alleged that he personally took a bribe was an informant the FBI had relied upon previously in other investigations? Yes or no?
Senator, in each and every investigation that we have, all the work that we do,
I asked you
the
yes or no
expectation
question.
is that...
See the non-answers with these guys? They're just a steady non-answer. They're just brutal. I mean, they're just song and dancing every time they get a question asked of them. Here is Josh Hawley. He is another senator, and he's going to be asking this deputy director some questions as well. So let's listen to what Josh has to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Hawley. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Abadi, let me just stay with you. You just started to answer Senator Blackburn's question that not releasing the 1023 or talking about it as a matter of life and death. Question of life and death, you said. Explain.
It is potentially a question of life and death
for whom?
With regard to the source of the information.
So, okay, so now we've confirmed that the document exists. That's progress because the FBI director initially denied that it exists. Why did he do that?
So now they know it does.
Have already and previously acknowledged the existence of the documents.
Yeah, after you first denied it. Now, when a member of this committee read it, right, the FBI director, let's just get the record straight. The FBI director initially said it doesn't exist. Then Senator Grassley said, I've read it. Then he said, oh, okay, well, gotcha. I guess it does exist. Now you're going back and forth with members of this committee what's in it. Why don't you just release it? Is it classified?
The document is not classified.
Okay. Will you commit to releasing it?
Senator, we'll take that back and we will work with you and this committee.
How about just a yes or no? Will you commit to releasing this unclassified document that alleges that the President of the United States, has taken $5 million or more in bribes from a foreign nation?
The document has already been released pursuant to a subpoena to the House Oversight Committee.
Has it been released to this committee?
We will work with this committee within the parameters that are established to meet
Will you
the
release
request.
the document to the public? It's unclassified. Don't you think the American people have a right to see it?
Senator, the document, as you know, contains sensitive information that has bearing on the life of the source of the information, potentially.
You can redact the source's name. We do this all the time.
In some instances, Senator, and I know you know this, that is not sufficient to protect people. And that's what we strive and work to do each and every day, and I hope you would take that seriously, too.
Oh, I take it very seriously. But I also take seriously the fact that your institution has repeatedly abused its authority, has repeatedly targeted political opponents. Your institution is the one that went to the door of pro-life protesters with SWAT teams.
Isn't that something? Isn't this something how this guy can literally not answer a question that's asked of him in a senatorial hearing? It's just wild. Anyway, here's a tape actually. Here's one of the tapes, and this is of Biden having a conversation with Poroshenko from the Ukraine. Now, keep in mind, if Trump was impeached for talking to the president of the Ukraine, and here is Biden talking to him, but he's talking to him about a little bit something different. So let's have a look. Listen to what he says.
Hey, Mr. President, Joe Biden, how are you?
Very well indeed. As usual when I hear your voice. Thank you.
Well, you are doing very well. Congratulations on getting the new prosecutor general. It's going to be critical for him to work quickly to repair the damage Shokin did. And I'm a man of my word. And that now that the new prosecutor general's in place, we're ready to move forward in signing that new $1 billion loan guarantee.
$1 billion loan guarantee. Wow, sounds like a quid pro quo, something for something. And they literally impeached Trump for a conversation, like I said earlier, that he had with the Ukraine president. And there's Joe Biden having a conversation on tape and saying, yeah, we'll go ahead and move forward now that, prosecutors looked after. The scales of justice, folks, the scales should be even, not lopsided. And like I said, I don't care. I've said in podcasts before, I don't care if you like Trump, hate Trump, Biden, like him, hate him, don't matter. I don't care if it's, this guy's name is A, the other guy's name is B. I could care less. Just make sure it's equal. And if they're guilty about stuff, then by all means, charge them and do what you have to do. But don't have this lopsided talk back and forth, knowing full well what's going on with the Bidens. It's ridiculous. All right, so before I close off here, I am going to actually do a little plug. I'm going to do a little plug for a show called 2000 Mules. If you've never seen this show, 2000 Mules, they were talking about the cell phones, the geo positioning of someone's cell phone. And when your cell phone, they can locate your cell phone. They can locate your cell phone within like meters of where you're standing, like within a couple of meters. That's how they got terrorists in far off lands, and they hit them with missiles and stuff, because they pinpoint accuracy. They know where they are with these geo phones. And anyway, this show that's called 2000 Mules is in regards to mules that were taking bundles of ballots and stuffing them in boxes. And you won't see this in mainstream media. You just won't. But here's a trailer for this one. Have a listen.
Together, I think the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Dinesh D'Souza is the director of this film.
Let me say it again.
The 2020 election was the most secure
election in American history.
Let me begin by asking a very simple question. Do we know the truth about what really happened in the 2020 election? I think millions of Americans know something went wrong, and they have little pieces, and no one's really put it together.
I'm agnostic on this question, and I am awaiting more information.
If I believed the president were a Nazi, I might steal an election.
Bold accusations require bold evidence, and they haven't seen it.
We have been working on something big.
Show me the money.
Can we meet? I've been working with Greg Phillips. He has a deep background in election intelligence.
True the Vote has the largest store of election intelligence for the 2020 elections in the world. No one has more data than we do. We identified
using cell phone geo-tracking
42 mules that went to an average of 24 drop boxes. But Philadelphia alone, we've identified more than 1,100 mules.
What is a mule?
Person picking up ballots and running them to the drop box.
This is not grandma out walking her dog. Bad backgrounds, bad reputations. They are interested in one thing, that's money.
And in no shape, in no way, in no time is that legal.
This is organized crime.
Do you have video evidence?
4 million minutes of surveillance video around the country.
What you're about to see is disturbing.
So this is
very
1 o'clock
disturbing.
in the morning.
Don't we all vote at 1 o'clock in the morning?
On one night, this person, this mule, went across 6 counties to 27 different drop boxes.
I call it the Mexican mafia, seriously, because they work like that.
This is jaw-dropping. What you showed is frightening.
It's just sickening to me.
Now we come to the most important question of all. Was the magnitude of vote trafficking enough to tip the balance in the 2020 presidential election?
It's not a leap to say this would have made a difference.
They have ruined Election Day in the United States of America. That's provable. And that's enough for me to fight the left with every fiber in my body.
Without free and fair elections, we are not a democracy. We are a criminal cartel masquerading as a democracy.
2,000 mules. So there you have it, 2,000 mules. And like I said before, people always said, about the election and being stolen and blah, blah, blah. Well, everyone has come to a conclusion with the information that they know. So you watch that show, you might come to a different conclusion with different information that you can see with your own eyes and say to yourself, is it plausible? Is this possible? Because I know for a fact that, doing mail-in ballots anywhere, you're just asking for trouble. I don't care if it's in Colombia or if it's in anywhere, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Canada, U.S., doesn't matter. If you have mail-in ballots, you're just asking for trouble. All right, so that's just a little plug for the 2,000 Mules movie because it was very, very well done. And before I sign off, I'm going to do one more video, and I saw this the other day, and this was Secretary Blinken, Anthony Blinken, talking about the United States' stance with Taiwan, and I think this is kind of shameful and quite disgusting. It's a very short clip, but here's what he had to say yesterday, if you haven't seen it.
On Taiwan, I reiterated the long-standing U.S. One China policy. That policy has not changed. It's guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 joint communiques, the 6 assurances. We do not support Taiwan independence. We remain opposed to any unilateral changes to the status quo by either side. We continue to expect the peaceful resolution of cross-strait differences.
So there you go. They're not going to back Taiwan. So they're just not going to back them. They've sent hundreds of millions of dollars to the Ukraine for democracy, but they won't protect Taiwan, and they won't accept Taiwan as a sovereign nation. They're just like opening up the doors for China to just go ahead and do whatever they want. It's not right. It's not right. Right? When you think about it, the whole thing it just doesn't make any sense. right? And here's another thing that doesn't make any sense before I sign off again. I'm just going to throw this other thing up here. I'm just going to show you this picture that I just posted. So the first one, of course, Muammar Gaddafi, Osama bin Laden, and Saddam Hussein. And the bottom one, of course, is Zelensky. It's to be continued. The United States seemed to give weapons, and then those leaders just, they're gone. It's just crazy. But anyway, like I've said before, this will hopefully all work out in the wash, and get itself sorted out. Anyway, listen, that is all today for today's podcast. That's a little over 30 minutes. That's enough chatter, enough videos. I want to thank everyone for listening to my podcast today. Everyone that's subscribed to my channel so far, it's much appreciated. If you'd like to subscribe, like, and ring the little bell that I put up over here, there you go. Put it up over here. Just ring that bell, and you'll be notified every time I post another video. It's much appreciated. All my videos that I post on YouTube also go to rumble.com. Just go to rumble.com and type in The Surge Affect, and you will find me there. You can also find me on any Android or iPhone application, and you just do the same thing on that application on an iPhone or an Android for a podcast app, and type in The Surge Affect, and you will see the black TSA with a microphone, and that's me, The Surge Effect. I can be found, of course, on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I post once in a while, not all the time, but I do post things once in a while. So, like I said, it's much appreciated. Please subscribe and like my channel. It helps out with the algorithm in YouTube. And until next time, have a great day. Cheers. This episode sponsored by He Shirts, She Shirts. Go to www.heshirtssheshirts.ca. Just type in the letters TSA, The Surge Effect. When you check out, type in TSA for your coupon and receive 10% off your next purchase. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, everybody.